welcome back to another Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. I am so excited that you are here with us today. We exist to equip today's leaders to shape tomorrow's church. And today we're diving into one of the most important or relevant topics for students, pastors, parents, our relationship with technology. We live in a world that's always scrolling and swiping, refreshing, but that is oftentimes things that take us over. Our emotions, our attention, even our relationships and spiritual lives are dictated by our social media. And so today our guest is Nick Rotola. Nick is the CEO and founder of Up, a new digital wellness platform from scrollhappy.com that helps people take back both their screen habits and live more intentional lives. So Nick, thank you for joining us today.
Eric, awesome to be here. I'm excited. Thanks for all you're doing with youth in America and stoking that fire that's already ripping, but you're just adding gasoline. So thanks for that.
Yeah, man. Well, I love what you're doing. You're literally taking behavioral science data, you're designing and creating a tool that will actually help people use technology for good. So praise the Lord for that. And so I'm excited. I think this is a must watch or must listen to episode and a conversation. We've had a chance to connect, and you've kind of shared some of what you're doing, the doors that God's opened in this whole process, and I love it. And so I want to first and foremost point people to your website, just scrollhappy.com. Nick, why don't you kind of tell us, like, where did this idea come from? What was maybe the moment or realization that sparked the idea for Up?
Yeah. So, pastor's kid. My dad went to Rhema. Ended up at Oral Roberts, played baseball there, played professionally for 4 years. I got an opportunity to join a fledgling cryptocurrency company that went up like 3,000x or something like that. In 6 months, we were one of the top in the world in 2021. And that was crazy. So the Lord let me kind of take the elevator up, and I saw a lot of pride and greed and fear and anger and envy and all kinds of stuff. And I saw crazy volume. We were spending 30, 40 million a month on marketing. It was just like monopoly money almost. It felt like it was so insane. Mm-hmm. I heard the Lord say, now go do this for the kingdom. So I really felt like it was like a taste some of the most viral poppin' things, super worldly, but kind of like see how they ran, how we were taking over these algorithms every day. We were trending on TikTok, Instagram, whenever we wanted. X. It was called Twitter at the time. But yeah, we had the day like with 9 million tweets in one day. We had a day with 6 million tweets. We had 5 days of more volume than Apple. We had a day with 1 billion in volume in one day. And in that day, we had $30-40 million go into our marketing wallet to spend on marketing. And yeah, just I could go on. And that was like a crazy, crazy thing. But I think it was just kind of a shortcut way for Nick from Wichita to be able to build technology for the kingdom, fund the kingdom, which is what my heart is. My heart is to see 1 billion souls saved. And in order to do that, be a part of that movement, which many people are praying for. I believe that part of my role is to be one of the funders and one of the connectors and one of the capital people. We've have some really faithful families in the United States that fund a lot of the amazing things going on, but we need more. We need hundreds more of those families. So I just believe that God's raising up leaders to impact culture for the kingdom and fund the kingdom. And so anyway, after that, I started this digital art gallery on Fifth Avenue in New York City, which was another crazy, not on your Nick from Wichita bingo card. So we were the first business in 100 years to have our first location on Fifth Avenue. That's what the Fifth Avenue Association told us. And it was an interesting concept, basically 300 screens on the wall. And it was a digital art gallery. So digital artists could control the screens from anywhere on earth. Dubai, we had people in LA, all over Singapore, London, wherever. And they would cast content to these screens. So it would drag and drop the artists. And then we would use AI to make sure nothing bad ever hit the screen. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this technology is insane. This was pre-ChatGPT. And I was thinking, why is my Instagram feed such garbage. And why am I seeing all these things I don't want to see? I didn't realize that these filters could be so powerful. And so,
Mm.
yeah, just going back to like the very first Sunday school lesson, Eric, is like what you put in is what comes out. So you listen to bad music, you watch bad movies, you hang around bad friends, and you're going to be acting like a bad person. And you weren't designed to act that way. You were designed with a call and a purpose. The Lord knit you together in your mother's womb, knows every hair on your head. And so you're like a hammer that's designed to drive nails on the wall, but instead you're using like the butt side or something like that, trying to drive. You're just not operating the way you're designed to operate.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, you don't get to operate in your calling, which is what you're the world's best at. And so for me, Instagram, Snap, like I would say I was the generation using these in some of the most harmful ways as a, college baseball player and high school, baseball, all these things. And so I just know how toxic and harmful they really are. And it's just always been a crux in my life. It's like, if you're a left-handed cousin, cut it off kind of thing. So for me, I detoxed from these platforms a long time ago, and I really, really grew to hate them. And then, I had there was some sexual issues, some pornography issues. And then there was political issues where I married into a politically divided family. And it used to be like, you could talk about it. It was like funny kind of thing, 2015 when I first started coming around, but then it's just got so divided and toxic. And I'm just like, man, these are really incredible, smart people. We're seeing, everybody's seeing completely different information, and these algorithms silo people so hardcore and they can't see it. And now, of course, with the age of AI, where, half of videos already are AI generated. And, of course, the guardrails are basically non-existent for that. It just makes the problem even worse. So I started really brewing and festering, and God took me through some hard challenges. David said, I killed a lion, I killed a bear. So who's this Philistine? I kind of feel like that a little bit with like just some of the things that through the Lord's will I've been able to overcome, and he's put on my plate. With professional baseball and the Fifth Avenue thing and all this stuff that's really, really high stress and high pressure and really hard to pull off. So now all of our energy and all of our focus for the last 2.5 years has been on solving this doom scroll problem. And so in order to solve that, you have to create a world-class product, has to be as good or better than the Instagram experience. And so the way we've made it better, or TikTok, is we give you all the content you want and none of the content you really don't want. And so there's no choking videos, there's no political videos, there's no suicidal ideation videos, there's no anorexia, videos, whatever sort of vice that the algorithm uses on you or the viewers. So we've removed the harmful stuff. We knew we needed a science-backed approach to do that. So that's sort of what we did. And we did a whole bunch of research, and the research was amazing. And then we just said, wow, we have to double down on this. So we, about a year ago, we did our first studies, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is so far 3 times better for mental health, and what you see matters. And Gen Z seeing these feeds for 35 hours a week on average. And so that's insane. And, there's no gatekeeper, there's no filter, and we needed that filter. So that same Fifth Avenue filter, that ended up coming in really handy, that knowledge and expertise and background and story. And that was crazy. They asked me to keynote in front of 10,000 people to sell that story. I keynoted a couple other times, but, I got to be in like the rooms, with the people really impacting culture. And I was, I'm on Team Jesus and slave to Christ. And, I could very easily see myself, being full-time ministry. But God's just created this crazy passion and desire to solve hard problems and fund the kingdom at scale. And so I'm one of those guys trying to think big and execute big. And up is definitely happening, and it's here, and it's very legitimate at this point. So,
dude, praise God. I love when you like can see a problem and you're like, wait a second, I might have some resources, some experience, some passion, some knowledge that we can throw at this thing. And when you look at like how all that comes together, to realize like, no, we can do this. And the reality of how God's kingdom works is then you begin to like build momentum. I'm using that pun intentionally, but
So
then you
there's
build
a
momentum when you pick up all these people. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
plays.
there's a lot of up puns too. So the momentum and the up puns. Let's try to get to 5 or 10 of those on this.
Let's go. We'll start the counter. Nick, when you're thinking about like you mentioned the phrase doom scrolling, when you look at culture right now and how people they get stuck in the scroll, there's the comparison, the distraction. My 9-year-old son when I have my phone in my hand and it's up in front of my face, like he feels that as a void. And
Yeah.
I can remember when he was little and he'd be like, "Daddy, phone down," like
Yeah.
put your phone away.
Yeah.
That is so felt relationally. Talk
Yeah.
about the doom scrolling and kind of the science behind that. What you guys have discovered and learned from all that.
Yeah. So there was a study done in the UK, quite a large one called the Millennium Cohort Study, where they've been studying social media and screen time and tech and all that. And Jonathan Haidt references that study in his book Anxious Generation, which is a really, really good tool if you're a parent. I would definitely recommend to read Anxious Generation or Pastor and you want to understand Gen Z, Gen Alpha. But basically, yeah, we have this generation where you know we had wave one and wave two. So this is how I explain it. We had the first era was called the social era, where it was called a social network. We had Facebook and X and all these things, and the algorithms were pretty simple. You connect with people that you know or you sort of look up to, and then they post and you see their content. And in 2010, Zuckerberg took on a new COO and they had some sort of board changes and all this stuff. And they decided, well, what if we ranked content differently and maximized for engagement? So basically that's when they started putting the prettiest person first or the loudest person. And it was a very rudimentary version in 2010, but basically people other than your followers or friends or whatever could see your posts. And so they sort of kicked off this algorithmically generated feed. Now it's still maybe 80-20 your friends or whatever. And then as time has gone on, now I think it's something like it's like 13 or 15% of content you'll ever see, or that sometimes you can find a number that says 5 or 7% is from someone you've ever met or seen in your life. So 90, 95%, 92%, something like that is content from people you've never met. And so what does that mean? Well, what that means is you basically have Blockbuster, where you walk around and you can get any movie you want. But instead of you picking the movie and showing it to your mom and saying, "Hey, can we watch this?" or whatever, like I did when I was a kid, and she would read it and she'd say, "Well, I don't know, well, let's see, I'll ask the clerk." Instead of that, today's kids are watching 20 movies worth of content per week, 2025 on average. And there's no mom, there's no clerk, there's no store, there's no remote, there's no picking. It's all just a feed where you don't know what's coming next. And so you scroll and the algorithm it doesn't matter who you follow, it doesn't matter who your friends are, it doesn't matter who you've met in your life. None of those things matter. It's just, what does the algorithm want to feed you? And I think the feed is very interesting because, of course, the Bible points to feeding your spirit or your flesh, and whichever one you feed more is stronger. So you feed your flesh more, pride, less, envy, fear, greed, then those things are going to take over. And I spent many years of my life as a solid Christian kid leading Bible studies and leading this double life where the Lord really couldn't use me. And I had a dark heart and I had a double life. I love how Forrest Frank talks about that in his songs. And I know what he's talking about because I was that kid too. And
yeah.
And then there's feeding your spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So basically what happened was in 2010, they started feeding your flesh more or whatever and trying to drive engagement, suck you in longer. You don't naturally eat 40 apples, but you can very easily eat 40 Oreos and so it's just the way human nature works is fleshly things typically can be binged much, much more, gambling, alcohol, pornography, all those things. Whereas things that lift you up, that inspire you, that are positive, are typically not as addictive, like working out, things like that, where it's a little bit tougher to get going. And so that's just sort of how the world works and how God designed us. It is the narrow gate is really the good one, and the wide gate is the bad one. And you're sort of like trying to steer and focus on the narrow gate. And as a parent, you're trying to focus on the narrow gate. And so, what basically happened is the term doom scrolling came about in about 2020. It was the word of the year in 2022, Webster's, and it came from TikTok. TikTok basically took the Facebook model, which then Instagram started using with the front-facing camera and all that, and really making more famous. And they said, we are going to do everything it takes. It really doesn't matter who you follow. It doesn't matter how many followers a creator has. Every single unique video will have a chance of going viral, will be seen by at least one person. And so even the video where you're killing somebody, you're something crazy or whatever, choking video, those are all going to be seen by at least one person. And then the more it's engaged with, the more we'll show it to people. And then, you have to report a video that's, horrible or whatever. And if enough people report it, then they'll take it down. So they really came out in 2020 with that. And then what happened was, Zuckerberg called his team together, his senior team. I had a CTO that used to be very, very high up over Facebook groups. And he said that Zuckerberg called everyone up and said, hey, look, TikTok's already eaten our lunch. And if we're not careful, they're going to eat our dinner too. We have to figure out this algorithm. And of course, they're talking about what is now called a doom scroll algorithm. Is basically your friends don't matter. It's not an app for community or connection. It is an entertainment platform that's algorithmically recommended. And the more pride, lust, envy, fear, greed you can push, the more usage will go up. And it's perfect because nobody will see it coming, because they all remember Facebook in 2006. And so that's their sort of first impression. But now we've come a very long way. So that's kind of like the evolution. But the Millennium Cohort Study, to button it up, basically shows that the people that use Instagram, social media for 2 hours or less have 3 times better mental health than those that use it for 5 hours a day. And so if you could go from 5 to 2, you 3 extra mental health. What we proved it up is that it's not just watching it less that's good, but also if you can watch better content, then you also can 3x. So both things are great. So I love anything to reduce screen time. I love the brick. I love the Opal. I love the dumb phones. I love it all. I wish we could all be Amish, to be honest with you, with technology sometimes. So better to not use up. But our thesis at Up is, look, I mean, people like Instagram Reels. They like TikTok. We mentioned the sex trafficking thing before the call, but, I've talked to some of the groups that free these women. And one of the things they say is if you don't give them a great place to land on when you pull them out, sometimes they go back because it's all they know. And so if we're going to pull people from doom scrolling, our thesis at Up is have them land on a great, great, great place. And so I really think social is very due for its organic food moment, its Trader Joe's moment, its Whole Foods moment, where, there's still going to be processed food, and there's still going to be, tons of pornographic content, and, political, and, Trump is Jesus, Trump's Hitler, whatever you're interested, whatever you subscribe to there. And there's going to be a market for that. But our thesis at Up is there's also going to be a market for people that want to shop at Trader Joe's, that don't want to, buy the 40 pack of Coke and don't want to buy Twinkies and Oreos and all this stuff, but would rather go to Trader Joe's or Whole Foods and not have corn syrup and, feel better and be healthier and be happier. And so we've really built the platform for people that want to be happy, that want to feel better, that want to be healthier. And in order for that to happen, it has to feel like Trader Joe's, which is definitely a better experience than Walmart. And I think everyone can kind of say, if you've been to a Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, it feels better than walking in Walmart. And so I think that's sort of going to happen. We are the first player in this market saying, hey, social video doesn't have to be optimized for your scroll time. It can actually be optimized for how much you like it and how it makes you feel. And if you those are two very different things to optimize for. And so if you optimize for scroll time, you're going to try to make people feel worse. If you optimize for their well-being, you're going to try to make them feel better. And the algorithm knows so much about video, so much. Like we basically can understand a video in over 1,000 different dimensions. That's how impressive vector embedding is and AI video recognition. And so you just basically use what the enemy meant for evil and you turn it for good. And we are sort of the good for you, healthy social video platform. And so that's what the scroll happy comes from, is like, if you're going to scroll, you might as well be in a good mood doing it. I think it's a really cool concept, free media tailored to your interests, available anytime, anywhere. A creator can be creative in LA and get a video to you in Wichita or New York or London or wherever. I think that's so cool. And it's a great way to get good messages out there and encourage people at scale. It's just, unfortunately, the only companies that have been really major players in the space have been Silicon Valley mindset, focus on the 7 deadly sins, profit before people and all those kind of things. So we've basically taken the biblical worldview and the biblical principles and we've applied it to this industry. We're not a Christian app. You're not going to see the word fellowship on our website or anything like that. I love that word, but it's not a Christian app. It's just an app that is optimized for your mental health and happiness, your well-being. And we put person before the profit. And so that's been a cool journey we've been on. We have a couple 100,000 videos in already from some of the top creators in the world, like, humongous names, people with 200 million followers, 100 million followers, 50 million followers. And so it's just gotten really big and it's gotten really exciting, and new creators are coming in every day wanting to be on our app. And I could just go on and on. But the answer to the science-backed question is basically, if you go from 5 hours a day, which is a Gen Z average, to 2, you 3x your mental health. If you switch from TikTok to up, you 3x your mental health. That's how it's looking so far, at least. And that's important because you're talking about, for every million you do that with, you're saving 60,000 suicide attempts and 200,000 anxiety disorders. So these are really real numbers, and they're really serious.
Yes.
10% of US high schoolers attempt suicide annually. That's what Jet Foundation says. So it's like, it's really not fair, because the parents remember Facebook in 2005 or 2007, and then you have a kid and you give it to them as if it's 2007 algorithm, but it's a 2025 algorithm, and it's a much, much different story and situation and feed.
Nick, you're clearly passionate about this, my friend. You ooze it and you display it in a beautiful way. I love hearing just your heart for it. And honestly, like that thought process of doom scrolling, when you compare it to scroll happy and the whole premise of what you're trying to do, I think you're hitting the nail on the head with the right hammer, to go back to that analogy. So help us think through, like, you're wrestling with this balance, right? Of how do you leverage technology? Here at Momentum, we say all the time, like, let's figure out how do we leverage everything for the gospel? How do we make much of God's kingdom and assess the resources that we have right around us to meet the needs that are going on right in front of you? And so when you think about this balance between, or maybe tension between technology as a problem or technology as a tool for change, how are you viewing that perspective? And really, I guess, what kind of the behavioral science are you putting in to design or drive the app's background in terms of beating that algorithm, as you're talking about the fruit of the spirit compared to the 7 deadly sins? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so great question. I think, there's good books and bad books. There's good mentors and bad mentors. There's good movies and bad movies. To say that technology in itself is evil is to say that every book is evil. Every movie is evil. So I think, there are populations that have said, like an Amish population that said, hey, let's go back and let's simplify. And I think there's some beauty to that. But for most, it's how can we be in the world, not of the world? And so there has to be a Paul in Athens moment where I would say that sort of phrase started Acts 17, where he says, to an unknown God, and he uses the language they understood, and he spoke to them in a way they understood it. And so for us, it's like, well, okay, what are we doing here? So we look at Mark 4, Mark 4 is a parable of the sower, the only parable that Jesus explained explicitly to his disciples. He said, God, Jesus, you just got to walk us through that one. We could tell that was dope. We just didn't quite get it. And thank God they did that, because the parable of the sower is so great. There's 4 ways seed can be sown and it can be responded to. There's the road where it immediately burns up. To me, I think about Psalms 1 there. I think about, do not sit in the seat of scoffers. I see someone as absolutely hates God, wants nothing to do with it, and just immediately tries to burn. I'm never ever going to talk about it. It's like very far gone, a lot of hatred, a lot of coldness, whatever. And then there's a seed sown on the shallow soil where they love it. They just don't have a good deep soil. And that's where things like momentum and everything you're doing to increase depth of soil is so important with young people. And so why we're all up is always going to be a supporter of everything you're doing, Eric. But and then there's the thorns, the seed that's sown, but the desires of the world, lust, pride, envy, fear, greed, those things choke out the seed. And that was me. I was that good kid going to church. I went to Oral Roberts, I went to a great church called Guts in Tulsa. And I would get this seed and it would just get choked out by the thorns. And that's kind of the point. Is like, Eric, you have a cool platform where you're speaking to, thousands, soon to be tens of thousands or whatever the numbers are going to be of students in one place. And you're going to be able to move their heart, and they're going to be weeping, and they're going to want to get, baptized or get saved or whatever. They're going to want to go all in and go deep. But if they still have this habit where the thorns are taking up 35 hours of their week, that seed will never take full root, will never have 100x return like the deep soil does. And that's why you have only 15% of Christians read the Bible every day, only 6% of the biblical worldview. That's the Barna research. I think they have updated numbers, but but what I'm saying is we have to remove the thorns. There's this story from Nazi Germany where this one church was like right by the railroad, where they would take all the people to Auschwitz, and they didn't want to hear the screaming, so they would ring the bells super loud. So they had like this saying, ring the bells louder, and they would ring it so they couldn't hear the screaming, they could just worship. And there's a certain level of cowardness there to look at a problem that is coming after our kids and us, all of God's children, and to say, we're going to ring the bells louder, we're not going to pay attention to that. And so with doom scrolling and the youth mental health crisis, which I think it's something like 85% of hospitalizations in the West are from psychological or emotional stress. So 15% physical problems, 85% mental problems. So it's like, are problems, physical? Is that where a lot, yes, I think we should still focus on that. But what about the mental problems? And to me, a therapy app or something like that would fix the symptoms. But if you want to fix the root cause, you have to look at social media. And I think, if you're a pastor in a congregation and you're thinking, man, I've got a great message prepared for this Sunday, this is just killer. Just remember, they're going to go and scroll for 5 hours later that day, and it's going to rob all that seed. So unless you say something or do something about that 5 hours a day, you would never let your sheep, if you're a shepherd, walk by the brothel, 75 times a day, 150 times a day, if you're a pastor in sort of medieval times or whatever. So why would you let your congregation be subject to, sexual pulls that many times a day, or political pulls, unless you're doing something to change a policy on politics? Why are you consuming that for 25 hours a week, 20 hours a week? What is that doing? Are those fits of rage? The Bible says nothing righteous comes from anger. So all that anger about the other side, what is that doing? What is the positive, or is that a waste? The Bible says, I love that song. It says there's no waste at the altar. That's so true. There's no waste at the altar. That's true. We all know that. When Galatians 5 talks about the fruits of the Spirit, and it says there's no law against these things. That's true. Who could argue with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control? Nobody can argue with those things. Right? It's impossible to say those things are bad. Yeah. And so basically what we've done is we've proven that Social is just like books. It's just like movies. It's just like mentors, just like friends. It's just like everything. It could be good. It could be bad. Tools take on what their maker, how they're being used. And so it's a tool, and it's a tool that can be definitely used for the kingdom. I love how, Bobby Grunwald from the Bible app talks about technology and the ability to get to the gospel to the whole world is like, it's never been like this. We've never been able to reach this many people at one time and steer this many people. It used to be you could steer people in your city or your, whatever, close proximity. But now, we're talking to people all day long that are impacting, 5 million people per video, 10 million people per video. And so to answer your question, I think we need to be in technology. We can't just turn the bells louder. We need to pay attention. Up is not an idea on a napkin. It's a very, very flushed out concept idea. It's coming to market early next year. Anybody that gets involved with what we're doing is going to be part of the solution. We know that. And we have to solve this problem. My daughter's 3. There's no way on earth she's getting these apps. It's just not going to happen.
For sure. Nick, I love it because that's one of the things I think we both bonded over was our kids, our love for protecting them and wanting to give them the best things possible when they mature and grow up, but also obviously our love for baseball. I'm a baseball nut and a baseball junkie. And so when it comes to thinking about these, the things that make your heart go pitter patter, the things that you love, if you were to scroll through my algorithm on any of it, you're going to find a whole lot of baseball things.
All right.
You're going to pretty much all I post about is my kids when it comes to social media. But when in terms of like algorithms and beating the algorithms, talk to us a little bit about that. But more than that, go a little bit deeper into this idea of how do you help users who are navigating social media, how do you help them understand what's going on in their brain dynamics and even what you've seen in the early test results with your app, the facial recognition software that you're using and what's actually going on behind just what they see on the screen, but the mirror of how it's reflecting back to them and what's going on in their brain.
Yeah. So I think one, there's like the 5-minute challenge where if you just record your reels for 5 minutes and send them to me, I bet we can find like 10 things that are either doctrinally unsound or whatever. And so it's like, it really is like a 98% sweet, 2% arsenic situation where the rat never goes to drink arsenic, poison, obviously. He thinks he's drinking sugar, and so it's like, it's sneaky, very sneaky. But on the brain scans, basically, we use QEEG. We partnered with Dr. Nate Chinook from Florida Atlantic University, Dr. Nelson at Oral Roberts University. And basically, we found that people my age or like, people with kids, for example, the algorithm will trigger like the panic part of my brain. So like the back right of my brain, that's for like, recognizing a bear or dealing with
fight
an
or
intruder
flight,
that comes in my house or whatever, like protecting my family. And if you think about scroll time, their most profitable period being right before bed, where the average Gen Z with focus group scrolls for 2 hours on average before bed. And so you don't want people going to sleep. And so you do need to keep their panic part of their brain triggered. And it's not that the algorithm is doing brain scans, particularly and saying, if we do it this way, it's that it knows what sequence of videos it showed you and you got off in 20 minutes. And then next time it needs to get you on longer until it figures out how to do 2 hours plus. And so if the 2 hour plus combination for you, Eric, is to show you, a bombing video or some choking video or some AI, cat video, exploding or something like that or whatever, then it'll do that. And if it worked on you, it'll work for a million lookalike people just like you. And so they kind of use that methodology to keep you on for as long as possible. For the young people, it puts their brain almost like asleep, like almost like it's not working, like a zombie brain. And so for theirs, that's really where the name doom scrolling comes from. It's like you scroll for 30 minutes and you don't even remember one thing you just saw. And so it puts them in this sort of zombie state where they're just scrolling. They don't even remember what they're seeing. And so there's certain video sequences that do that. And so that, the algorithm would study that. And you're talking about the world's largest supercomputers and AI and smartest engineers working on this problem of how can I suck you in longer? And it really is a race to the bottom. And so for beating the algorithm, I would say that's not really a worthy endeavor. I guess what you're talking about is you want to know how to make your feed healthier for you, like on Instagram, TikTok. Yeah, our stance is that the report button doesn't work. We've seen so many cases where, the girl in the hospital with anorexia keeps getting an anorexia video every fourth video, and she says, "Watch, it doesn't work." You just press it. I know a bunch of moms that have a nonprofit that meets every Saturday, and they go on YouTube and they just report choking challenge videos because their sons all choked themselves to death, and so they dedicate their Saturdays to trying to get rid of the choking videos. But it's the same thing. It just feels like you're throwing a stone at like 1,000-foot high wall. And so what we've been working on and up is just, hey, look, they've actually taken it too far. They've overplayed their hand and they pissed a lot of people off. Doom scrolling actually peaked in 2022. It's been on a decline. There's definitely awareness of norms, awareness of harms. And then with addictive products, every time after awareness of harms, like with cigarettes and processed food and all these things, comes a rejecting the norm. And so we're definitely coming up on rejecting the norm period. So I believe in 10 years, Eric, doom scrolling, when you sit on a plane and you see a guy watching TikToks of 12-year-old girls and he's in his 60s for 2 hours straight, that's going to be like he might ripping cigarettes on a plane. It's going to be disgusting and repulsive. So I think we're starting to realize how really dark and crazy this stuff is. And we're definitely rejecting the norms. Like I said, we've been on a decline since 2022 when doom scrolling peaked. And so now we're sort of like, oh, wow. And so most people I know have detoxed or said, hey, I did 30 days off Instagram, or I deleted for 7, or, like my wife, right? I've deleted since 2018, but my wife, recently in the last 4 or 5 months has deleted. And, most people I talk to, the next time I talk to them, they say, oh man, I just decided to I'll get on and post, but I'm not going to scroll, for 45 minutes any day or hour and a half or whatever. So for those people, we built a solution that solves the problem for them. And if they come over to us, it will encourage and we believe build up their mental health and happiness and remove the thorns. That provides a way for the seed of the seed to be sown. And of course, I believe all real good things and true and pure and excellent, praiseworthy things ultimately come from the Lord. So even though it's not explicitly Christian content, when you talk about things that are, pure or excellent or just praiseworthy, those generally are really actually from the Lord. So that's our goal, is to magnify that kind of stuff and to take this thing on head on. And you're right. We do have kids, and it's crazy what happens when you hold a baby. I mean, just your whole life changes. I have 3 now, 3 under 4, and I just love kids. Culture's lied to us about kids and marriage. Both are amazing. And if you just serve God and put God first, seek first the kingdom of heaven, all these things will be added to you. And so that's the key and the answer. And less time on technology, more time in the Bible. And, if you're going to hang around friends, hang around good friends. If you're going to read books, read good books. If you're going to watch movies, watch good movies. And if you're going to scroll social, scroll up.
There you go, bro. What a good catchphrase. I love what you're saying, because I think the reality is we struggle with these things. And I honestly, I was just trying to put it on a tee for you to like dunk on TikTok and all of that and promote up. So when it comes to beating the algorithm, I'm like, I love what you're doing. I love the concept of what you're doing. I can't wait to see it in real time and in person. And I love the analogy even of like removing the thorns, because I think what you're saying is so spot on. When you can identify the things that have a hold on our life and that choke out the seed that God's wanting to plant in our lives and allow our faith to grow, that removing those things allows that to take root and begin to grow. And so for so many of the churches that we partner with, I'm like, I want desperately those students that come to our Momentum Youth Conference. We have an annual National Youth Conference There's amazing godly things that happen there. But when students go back home, if they're addicted to doom scrolling, if they're addicted to their phones, if they're addicted to technology or whatever it is, let's remove those things and then get them Bible study habits, right? And like you're saying, get them in God's word, get them involved with community and the right people in their church. And that's like now pouring gasoline on the fire that allows that spark that happened at the youth conference to continue to grow and continue to stay lit. And so that stuff is a big deal, and it gets me fired up about what you're doing.
I think there's a lot to be fired up about, Eric, right now. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. We've seen the Bible sales spike 40%. We've seen
Yeah.
I mean, my church is filled with Gen Z that are getting saved, you know,
Yep.
on the first week. It's like something is for sure happening. I mean, everybody knows it, and the devil's getting really freaked out and scared.
Mhm.
And so all we got to do is just, they're already on fire and they already have pure eyes and a soft heart. And we just have to support them. It's like Ezekiel 47, you know, you have your toes in the water, then your knees, then your waist, then your shoulders, then you're floating in the water. It's almost like, and then the deeper you go in God's in the Holy Spirit, you know, and in seeking God, the higher the banks get, you know, and the trees and all that. I feel like people like you and I, Eric, like Gen Z are already doing that. We just have to be those trees on the side that keep them on that narrow. And part of that, keeping them on the narrow, is saying, okay, you're going to be awake for 16 hours today, 14 hours today. Here's the chart of what happens when you do this for 5 hours a day, like all your friends. And this is how much happier and more fulfilled and less anxiety, depression, hopelessness if you don't do that. And so it's like, and so we need to shepherd these people. We need to do everything we can to keep pouring gasoline on the fire. And it's just incredible. And God is moving and it's exciting. You know, I have a youth group with about 120 kids. And when we do revival nights, we have another one on Wednesday. They go for 3, 4, or 5 hours. And it's just time in the Spirit and God's word and hearing people's testimonies and prophecies and all this stuff. And it's just, that's the best part of life. I mean, I've hit a home run in front of 10,000 people before, and it is nothing compared to one of those revival nights. You know, I've had, you know, even I would say having a baby, you know, and the beauty of that and getting to experience the way God loves us and cares about us. And the reason God created this world is for family. But even that, I would say, is probably trumped by just time, just totally surrender to the Lord. So how do we get more of that time? You know, better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. So every day we can do that with our day is like 1,000 days. And so, yeah, for us our big thing is go in the world, not of the world, provide the world-class solution. What's the great chicken sandwich of social? You know, what's the Trader Joe's moment? And so we've had a high standard. We expect to be dominant in the market. We definitely are going to come out and fill a need for people that really hate doom scrolling. But I think eventually, not only are we going to change consumers of a platform, but I think we'll also change the other algorithms. I think we'll be able to impact legislation and how they're protecting these things and protecting children. You know, just the predators and the DM problem that we've solved, where there will never, ever be a predator in your DM on up. I talked to someone really high up at the FBI, so they've never seen an underage girl without a predator in their DM. So, it's crazier. You know, don't be like that church that rings the bells louder and just ignore the situation. Doom scrolling is, according to the Surgeon General, the biggest problem in this country. You know, you're not letting people rip cigarettes through your congregation and all week long. And you know, you would say, hey, this isn't good for you. You need to do something about this. So if you're a counselor or you're a pastor or you're a youth pastor or you're a student or any of those things, like just be aware that like, you know, it seems like everybody's doom scrolling all the time, but they're not. They're starting to detox, starting to get free. They're starting to get out, touch grass. They're starting to read their Bible. They're starting to spend time with their family. You know, I know I turn my phone off, hopefully Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, just, man, technology, it can be great, but it's also just so annoying sometimes. Almost every one of the companies makes more money when they suck you in and you're more, you know, like their GDP, their revenue, their valuation goes up, the worse your mental health is. So that's That's a crazy thing. So,
It's so crazy.
yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah. Mm. Nick, thank you. Dude, you're literally like answering my next question every time with your answer. It's amazing. I was just going to ask, like, how do churches or ministries partner with Up to help communicate, their communities and their lives to live more intentionally? When can people put their hands on this and get
Yeah.
it? I know it's about November when we're recording this. This episode will probably be out sometime January 2025. So
Well,
uh,
yeah.
give
I think so.
give us a preview. Yeah, how
Yeah.
do
Great
how, how
question.
do
So,
churches make use of this?
yeah, awesome. Um, we would love to partner with churches. Scrollhappy.com, opposite of doom scrolling, scrollhappy.com. Join the waitlist as a user. There's a partner form if you'd like to be a partner. We are traveling to all kinds of churches around the country in 2026. We would love to play a video, give a message, or come in person and speak.
Mm.
It would either be myself, someone from our team, or one of our big content creators that has 20 million followers or something like that, depending on sort of the structure and who we need to send. We would love to, we'd love to have a video for the youth group or young adults. We would love to just get the word out about Up and what we're doing. Anyone in the congregation that has a business, we are beating TikTok and Instagram's sort of prices for advertisers, and they get to reach happy customers, not sad ones, especially for national brands. We would love to, we would love to support churches any way we can, from potentially different, grants or things like that to be on Up, to certainly just protecting the congregation as much as possible. And we love the opportunity to get in person with this message. I think it's definitely the most pressing issue of our generation. And we have cold hard data that says that our solution is 3 times better, or just getting off is 3 times better. So would love for would love an opportunity to get in front of congregations and partner. Those are coming in all different shapes and sizes, the partnerships. So would love to connect. There will be a partner page on scrollhappy.com for you to kick that off, and we will be in touch.
Dude, amazing. Nick, this is such a needed conversation. So thank you for helping us just understand the science behind our scrolling, the heart behind Up, and this awesome opportunity that you have to just empower people to take back their attention, to take back their social media habits, and live lives with purpose. So I love it. I can't wait. Hopefully when you do, all of our friends and listeners, you're going to see lots of Momentum ads on Up, and get you to youth conference and all the things that Momentum is doing. But bro, I'm just so delighted that you're literally taking every single adventure and avenue that God has taken you down and applying it to this and leverage everything for the gospel. It's awesome. So thanks so much for being a part of this conversation, and we'll look forward to next time. So to our listeners, if you want to learn more about Up, head over to scrollhappy.com. As Nick said, you can check out the science, the story, even download the app when it's available, I'm sure, and you can begin your journey towards digital wellness. And so remember, technology isn't evil, but it is powerful. So the question that we have to wrestle with is, are we using it intentionally, or are we using it for us? And so leverage everything for the gospel. Thanks, Nick, for joining us. Yeah. Any final thoughts, words?
Yeah, I just, think big. If there's entrepreneurs on this call, young entrepreneurs like me, there's really no reason, the days of, I think, plugging away at a big company that doesn't align with your values and being a great employee for them, I think those days are starting to be over. I think, go and build. It's never been easier to build amazing things with AI, and we need more builders. The harvest is great. The workers are few. And then, for those that are infusing doom scroll platforms with good content, keep going. Just don't catch yourself scrolling for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, reels or whatever.
Yeah.
It realistically is not really helping you. It's just hurting you. And so your scroll time should be on Up. And then, if you're a creator, we'd love to have you on Up as a curated platform. So you have to be approved to post. We'll have 10,000 or less creators, just the best creators in the world. So if you think you're one of those, apply to be a creator. And yeah, be praying for us. Be praying for Billion Soul Harvest. It's like 85% of people ever born in human history be born between the year 2000 and the year 2100. And so realistically, this next 75 years will be about 75% of people ever born on Earth. So it's time to dominate. And the Lord's given us so much momentum to go up. I'm getting
Let's go.
And so, don't go left or right thinking you're going up. Don't let politics cloud your faith. I think a lot of us did that in the last 5 years.
For sure.
But keep looking up. Everything good in your life came from the Lord. He designed you with a call and a purpose. I have a Frisbee behind me because a Frisbee, when turned upside down, is pretty worthless. It's like a bad plate. You can't really wash it. It's hard to blah, blah, blah. It's weird. But when it's right side up, the way it was designed to be, it flies. And so that's you. And so I'd encourage you to find your calling and your purpose and what you're the world's best at and fly.
Let's go, dude. I'm ready. I'm ready to fly. I'm ready to run through a wall. Nick's got me hyped. I love it. Hey, thank you so much, Nick, for joining us on this episode. To our audience, we'll see you next time. And I want to really encourage you that if you found this episode to be helpful, share it with a friend, have your ministry team listen to it. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for listening to the Momentum Ministry Partners Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, would you subscribe, rate, and leave us a review? That helps more people discover this podcast. We'd also love for you to share this episode with someone in your network who could benefit from the conversation. Because we want to be your go-to and most trusted resource, we'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode, send us an email to info@buildmomentum.org. Or you can send us a DM on any of our social media platforms. And if you want to learn more about Momentum Youth Conference, Urban Centers, Grace College Akron, Momentum Marketplace, or Momentum Pro, head over to buildmomentum.org. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.